Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is November the 3rd, 2025. And what I'd like to talk about today is come on in, the water's fine. I'm reminded when Jesus was taking a nap in the boat and all of his disciples were on the boat, and the storm come up, and they all thought they were going to perish, so they woke him up. and his attitude, which, of course, Jesus represents the knowing quality within ourselves, but he says, what's the matter with you? Haven't I taught you this already? So a lot of what we need to know, to experience, relates to we've lost sight of some things that we already know. And when he calmed the seas, and the disciples were kind of impressed, and Peter said, I'd like to do that. And he said, well, come on in, the water's fine. And Peter overcame his reluctance just long enough to check it out, so to speak. But when those doubts and insecurities started to come back in, he sank. So the sea represents, water is conscious life experience, and the storm represents that turmoil or confusion that we hang on to. And so Jesus told him that, I think I've already taught you this, because you need to remain calm. And so what a person needs to experience, or whatever they're having trouble with, or the turmoil within them, which represents the confusion, as they go toward it, and fear causes that insecurity. But Jesus had taught these disciples there's no reason to fear. And I've come to that understanding myself. And so I've overcome a lot of the fear that a lot of people have, by no means all of it. So whenever I catch myself reluctant to approach what I really need to understand, but I'm not quite ready yet. When I have that reluctance, I'll have experiences that will nudge me in that direction. And if I'm still reluctant, that gets stronger. So it's all seems like a game. And if you look at it as if it is like a sporting venture, in dream language represents how you approach the game of life. And so as we come to use more of what we understand, even if we have to pull that from previous lifetimes, and that requires going a little deeper than we've been before. And that's what I'm in the process of doing now. There's something I need that I'm approaching that I've been reluctant to. So just recently I went back and reacquainted myself with something I learned at School of Metaphysics. And so I am using that procedure. I won't tell you what it is, but I'm using that procedure to approach something that I want to accomplish, but I've been reluctant to. So I am using this procedure to move toward it instead of away from it. And it is in moving towards something that you don't understand, that you fear, that you have reluctance to go there. As you move in that direction, you begin to experience, or your experience begins to reflect a newfound confidence, and an experience causes clarity. That's why we have experience. And if we're reluctant to experience it, and that's what was happening with the disciples, and Jesus said, well, come on in, it's all right. But you can't bring the doubt with you. You got to leave the doubt and insecurity, you got to leave it where it is and go off and leave it. You can't bring it with you. So, and there was another situation in the Bible, I was just reviewing that this morning, where Jesus went into someone's house where they thought the lady was dead, and he just touched her hand, and she rose and got on with the business and served them coffee or whatever, served them whatever they needed. So he recognized that the knowing quality recognized within this part of the soul. That's what actually women in the Bible represent the conscious mind, not the subconscious mind. It is in this life that the opposite sex represents the conscious mind, or the subconscious mind. But he was correcting something in the conscious mind so that healing could occur. And that's what happens when you step toward what you are reluctant to see, are reluctant to know. I don't want to know that. Religion teaches a lot of that. You don't need to know. And so it causes more problems than it fixes, a lot more. So, anyway, Jesus healed this lady, which represents, the hand represents purpose. And so we've just, in order to correct the conscious thinking, would clarify the purpose. Why do I want this particular thing? What am I going to do with it once I have it? And how am I going to use it? That's what purpose represents. And also, I did a talk on the 3 pillars of purpose. I can, I will, I am. So it is in moving to the experience to see what it's about that you can say, with that clarity, you can say, okay, I am. I'm no longer afraid, no longer reluctant. I'm no longer doubtful or indecisive. Here I go. And so you go toward what seemed an insurmountable problem, and you see the clarity and the experience. So that's what it means to come on in, the water's fine. I have a friend who's passed along a dream just in the last, I saw it this morning. And I passed along some information for her to unravel the dream, which indicates that she's made some progress. And she'll be glad to hear that. And it also encourages her to understand the experience of the emotion. And so, naturally, I send her a couple of my talks that may help her understand that, if she hears it. So your dreams will tell you whether you're making progress or whether you need to add something. Dreams are your friend. They're not something scary. If you see something scary, that just is your own mind, your own soul is telling you you're just afraid to approach that, that's all. And if you listen to Jesus, who represents the knowing part of you, he tells you there's nothing to fear. He said, don't fear. Don't worry. Every time somebody said, I'm worried about you, I said, please don't do that. Because worry is a person using their imagination to create what is not wanted. So if you're going to put attention on me, please imagine me doing good. And that has a potential of helping, depending on how I use it. But if you send the energy my way that encourages me, I'm going to feel it. In fact, right now I feel every cell in my body is alive. I'm listening as I speak, not as we speak. As I speak, I'm listening to the sound of light. And I did a talk on that, telling how I came to that awareness. And it's the same sound that a lot of people hear and go to the doctor and want to get it fixed because they don't like the sound. I love it. And I'm hearing it now, and I'm feeling it in every cell of the body, like Jesus, the knowing part of me, said, if thine eye be single, body would be full of light. Light is awareness. But also my experience with light, I feel it. Each cell in the body is alive at this moment. I can feel the energy of it being alive. And I think that's at least one thing that Jesus meant about that. So there's always, usually, I don't know always because well, yeah, I do too, because when I'm using undivided attention, I'm plugged into eternity. So there's no past, no future, except what I create. That's where I am, and as long as I'm appreciating that, I cannot. So at the same time I'm appreciating that, I cannot be reluctant, I cannot doubt, I cannot be indecisive. So this light, this awareness within myself is my friend. It's something I can use to get where I want to go. So come on in, the water's fine. And the lady I referred to earlier is she had a dream that put her at the beach. And the beach represents the emotional level. And rather than running from the sharks and the whales and whatever, she was going toward helping people that were having trouble. And those people represent different parts of herself. So as one part becomes more aware, that part of yourself can help other parts. And each person in the dream represents a specific aspect. So I suspect she's going to appreciate knowing what that dream means. She's an interesting lady, and she's approaching life with a sense of awe, and as I've known her, the fear and indecision and all of the things that I've talked about. But now she seems to be making progress. She's in a foreign country, actually, doing a project that took her, I think, about 4 years to get to, from the inception to actual implementation. And all the time I've known her, or she talked about it, she was reluctant to follow through on this. And I would always encourage her to decide if it's something that's important. If it is, go for it. If it ain't, go on with something else. But there was something in it, and I think she is discovering what that something is now only by getting into the water. In her dream, she's diving into the water with her surfboard, which is just a tool to stay afloat like a boat, and being in a boat on top of the water or walking on water she was using a tool to gain control of her experiences. And when Jesus was walking on the water, he was using his spiritual base, the feet, to demonstrate that he's in control of his experiences, which Peter was reluctant. He hadn't gone that far along. He was gaining that understanding because he took a few steps out on the water, but then he sank when he started having the doubts and indecision. And so all through the Bible, these things are pointed out in symbols. If you try to just get it off the surface, you're going to be disappointed, because that represents how to stay entangled with the physical existence, or as Jesus said, serving mammon. So, because he said you can't serve God and mammon at the same time. You're going to make a choice. And I come to understand that each thought goes in one direction or the other. It's not an overall thing, it's each thought. So each thought, each opportunity to think gives me an opportunity to point this direction or that. It's my choice. And that's what I'm writing a book about, a matter of choice. I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm working in here on it. I'm not sitting down and actually doing the writing. I think I'm getting closer to that. I wrote 100 pages or so when I first thought of it, but then when I realized I was getting bogged down or needed to do a lot more work and organize, I just kind of set it aside. Not completely set it aside. I just got interested, chose to do other things. And so I'm working. There's so many things to work through. So rather than keep in the forefront of my mind, I got so many things, that's the doubt and indecision. So I just set those things aside where they're not bothering me at the moment. I know I'll eventually get to work on that, but I don't know how to do it all at once. So I choose to take one thing at a time. And what I just constructed to use this month, during the month of October, month of November, lose track of time sometimes, or the movement of time. So in this reminds me of undivided attention, because putting your attention on one thing at a time. Now, I use the 10 most wanted list, and this helps me to gain perspective on what is most important, what is next most important, and so forth. So I've got 10 major things that I'm focusing on. But for what I want to produce this month, I've got most of my attention, even though I've got some attention on the other things, I got most of my attention on one thing. And I planned how to manifest this one thing that I want, that I need. And it is the experience that will allow me to see that clearly and actually create it. The doubt and indecision just is interruptions to that flow, which causes it to be. And that's why I talk about these subtle things, because everything is subtle until you understand it, and then it's clear. But subtle, my big thing is to find the clarity in the subtlety. In other words, to calm the sea. So that I can then be more in control of my experiences. And it is the experience that causes the clarity. So this is where I am. I'm Winston Cunningham. Thank you.